Some brands become iconic because of innovation. Others, because they stole someone else's idea first. Behind the glossy ads, motivational speeches, and billion-dollar valuations lies a darker truth. History isn't written by the smartest. It's written by the boldest thief. Patents ignored, ideas stolen, rivals silenced. And when the dust settled, these brands didn't collapse. They became legends. Today, we're uncovering 17 famous brands that weren't built on genius, but on fraud, theft, and unbelievable deception. Facebook, the borrowed idea. Before Facebook became a global empire, it was something else, a stolen concept. The Winklevoss twins hired Mark Zuckerberg to build a networking platform called Harvard Connection. Instead, he secretly built his own version while stringing them along. Lawsuits followed. Settlements were paid. Money changed hands. But the outcome? Facebook became Meta, controlling billions of users worldwide. The Winklevosses became a trivia question, remembered more for Bitcoin investments than their original idea. Success picked its winner, and it wasn't ethics. McDonald's, the franchise takeover. McDonald's wasn't originally Ray Kroc's idea. It belonged to two brothers, Dick and Mac McDonald, who built a small but revolutionary restaurant with an efficient assembly line system. Ray Kroc saw a gold mine. He convinced them to let him franchise their concept, then quietly maneuvered them out of their own company. The final deal? No royalties, no future profits, no acknowledgement in the brand's official history. Today, billions recognize the golden arches. Almost no one knows the names of the men who actually built the system that changed fast food forever. Coca-Cola, the recipe. Acquisition. The original Coca-Cola formula didn't come from polished executives or marketing geniuses. It came from John Pemberton, a morphine-addicted pharmacist experimenting with tonics. After his death, the formula was purchased for pennies by Asa Candler. Pemberton's family never received long-term royalties. The new owners patented everything, trademarked the name, and systematically erased the original story. A global empire worth hundreds of billions was built not on invention, but on strategic acquisition and monopolistic ownership. Lego, the toy that was already invented. Lego didn't invent the plastic interlocking brick. A British company named Kiddicraft did, years earlier. Lego copied the design nearly piece for piece, same locking system, same shape, same concept. Kiddicraft's founder had even patented the idea. But Kiddicraft wasn't big enough to fight a legal battle against a growing Danish toy company. They couldn't afford the lawyers, the international pressure, or the manufacturing competition. Lego became the most iconic toy brand in history, generating billions annually. Kiddicraft became a forgotten footnote that most people have never heard of. Rolex, the Swiss illusion. Rolex markets itself as the pinnacle of Swiss craftsmanship, luxury, and precision engineering passed down through generations. The truth? The brand was originally founded by two Englishmen, Hans Wilsdorf and Alfred Davis, and the first watches weren't even Swiss-made. They imported movements and parts from Switzerland, assembled them in London, then used Swiss branding to increase credibility and justify premium prices. Genius marketing strategy? Absolutely. Authentic Swiss heritage? Not quite. The illusion became reality through decades of careful brand building. Disney, the fairy tales taken from others. Walt Disney is celebrated as a creative genius who brought magic to millions of children. But many of his biggest hits, Cinderella, Snow White, Pinocchio, The Little Mermaid, were public domain stories written decades or centuries before Disney existed. Disney didn't invent them. He repackaged them with animation, copyrighted those specific versions, and profited massively from stories that belonged to everyone. Then, ironically, Disney lobbied aggressively to extend copyright laws, preventing others from doing exactly what Disney had done. Magic? Yes. Original? Not really. The Diesel brothers, engine scam turned fame. Before they became TV personalities with a reality show and millions of followers, the Diesel brothers were caught selling modified trucks that illegally bypassed emission systems. Their pitch? More power, same safety, better performance. The reality? Massive pollution violations and environmental damage. Federal lawsuits followed, resulting in millions in fines. Their punishment? Barely a dent in their empire. They pivoted to influencer status, merchandise sales, and branded content. They became celebrities, not criminals in the public eye. Spotify, built on pirated music? Spotify launched promising a fair deal for artists and a legal alternative to piracy. But early versions of the platform streamed unlicensed tracks without proper agreements. Independent artists complained loudly, but Spotify ignored them until lawsuits and regulatory pressure forced payouts. Today, Spotify dominates music streaming with over 500 million users worldwide. The artists who got taken advantage of in the early days? Still fighting for fractions of a cent per stream while the platform generates billions. Apple, the Xerox copy. The Macintosh wasn't originally Apple's revolutionary vision. Steve Jobs visited Xerox PARC research facility and witnessed something that would change computing forever. The first graphical user interface with windows, icons, and a mouse. He took the concept, reimagined it for commercial use, and built it into Apple's products. Apple became a revolution that changed personal computing. Xerox became a business school cautionary tale about failing to capitalize on your own innovations. Jobs later defended it by saying, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." And he did exactly that. Nike, the Japanese running shoe rebrand. Nike didn't start as a shoe manufacturer. Phil Knight began by reselling Japanese Onitsuka Tiger shoes in the United States through his company Blue Ribbon Sports. The partnership worked until it didn't. When the relationship broke down, Nike kept the shoe designs, made minimal modifications, and slapped their new swoosh logo on nearly identical products. Onitsuka sued for breach of contract and design theft. They settled out of court. Justice? Maybe. But the real winner? Nike. Now a $150 billion athletic empire that dominates global sportswear, while Onitsuka Tiger remains a niche brand. And if this is opening your eyes, hit subscribe and drop "exposed" in the comments. Louis Vuitton, the icon built on counterfeiting wars. Louis Vuitton built its modern legacy fighting counterfeiters and protecting its trademark patterns. But here's the twist. The company actively copied and borrowed design silhouettes from other luggage makers of the era, then used legal power and influence to crush competition. When you're small, it's called copying. When you're big enough, it's called protecting heritage and defending intellectual property. The difference isn't the action, it's the legal budget. Zara, the fast fashion copy machine. Zara's entire business model is brutally simple. See a designer outfit on the runway, copy it within 10 days, manufacture it cheaply, sell it globally before the original even hits stores. High fashion brands were furious. Lawsuits came from major designers, but Zara had speed, manufacturing infrastructure, and a global retail distribution machine that made them nearly unstoppable. The result? Zara became a multi-billion-dollar empire built on what industry insiders call legal plagiarism. Close enough to avoid lawsuits, fast enough to dominate trends. Tesla, Elon didn't found it. Tesla is synonymous with one name, Elon Musk. But he wasn't one of the original founders. Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning actually founded Tesla Motors in 2003. Musk invested heavily as an early investor, then forced legal restructuring that allowed him to claim the title of co-founder. Aggressive marketing and personal branding did the rest. History doesn't remember who built the machine, only who controlled the narrative and became the public face. Beats by Dre, cheap product, expensive illusion. For years, Beats by Dre marketed themselves as premium, high-end audio equipment for serious music lovers. Inside, cheap components, plastic frames, and aggressively boosted bass frequencies that audiophiles called gimmicky at best. Teardowns revealed the headphones cost around $14 to manufacture, but sold for $300. The premium wasn't in the product. It was in celebrity endorsements and lifestyle branding. Audiophiles called it a scam. Apple called it a brilliant acquisition worth $3 billion. Now it's a fashion statement first, headphones second. Starbucks, the borrowed concept cafe. Starbucks didn't invent the modern cafe experience or specialty coffee culture. Howard Schultz traveled to Italy, experienced traditional espresso bar culture, and brought the concept back to the United States. Then he scaled it aggressively, pushing out local independent cafes everywhere. Starbucks became synonymous with innovation in American coffee. Reality? Just imported inspiration, repackaged with aggressive expansion and corporate efficiency that destroyed the very cafe culture it claimed to celebrate. Instagram, the copycat king. Instagram didn't invent stories, Snapchat did. Instagram didn't invent Reels, TikTok did. Instagram didn't invent live video streaming or shopping features. But Instagram had one massive advantage: a billion user base and the financial backing of Facebook. So they copied competitors' best features, integrated them seamlessly, and leveraged their existing network effect to win. Original innovation? Minimal. Strategic execution? Brilliant. Microsoft, the business of borrowing. Microsoft built much of its early dominance on copying existing software, then bundling it with Windows to systematically crush competitors. The most famous example? Internet Explorer, heavily inspired by Netscape Navigator. Microsoft bundled it free with Windows, leveraging monopoly power to dominate the browser market. Netscape, once valued at billions, essentially disappeared. Microsoft won the browser wars not through superior technology, but through strategic bundling and market control. Because in business, power beats originality, every single time. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most billion-dollar brands didn't win because they were first. They won because they moved faster, hit harder, hired better lawyers, and didn't wait for permission. Innovation may build products, but strategy, timing, and ruthless execution build empires. Some call it theft. Others call it smart business. The difference often depends on whether you're the one doing the taking or getting taken from. Want more corporate truth like this? Subscribe, because this story is just the beginning.